Hey guys, tonight we slip into a drafty bedchamber somewhere in 14th century Champagne, where smoky tallow tapers flicker against lime-washed walls, and you're hunched over a wobbly oak stool, squinting into a polished tin mirror the size of a pastry plate. You probably won't survive this vanity check without a singed sleeve or two. Candles and wool don't mix, but it's the only light you have, so here we go. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Don't forget to post your location and local time in the comments, so we can see if you're primping in Perth or nodding off in Nairobi. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your fingers trace the mirror's hammered edge, noting dents that warp reflection like a fairground hall of glass. No glass, actually. Sheet glass for personal mirrors won't appear in Europe for another 2 centuries. Mainstream historical fact: most medieval folk rely on convex pieces of polished brass or pewter, cheap alloys buffed with rotten stone, until they shine just enough to reveal that beetroot stain on your lower lip, but never crisp enough to warn you of spinach in your teeth. Nobles, of course, import Venetian bronze mirrors, their surfaces gilded with silver and even a whisper of gold leaf, so smooth you could count eyelashes if candle smoke didn't cloud them every 10 seconds. You balance candle in iron sconce, angling flame so light grazes mirror instead of your cornea. Sparks rise, drifting soot flecks that will soon settle onto your scalp, forcing tomorrow's wash with rain barrel water and ash soap. Quirky tidbit: some high-born ladies sprinkle crushed saffron into candle wax to scent the smoke and claim it softens the complexion. Your candle, plain tallow. It smells faintly of last week's lamb stew, aromatic austerity wrapped in flickering wax. The coffer creaks open. Inside lies your grooming arsenal, a bone-handled comb whose teeth are so fine they double as flea traps, a tiny silver ear spoon dangling from a chatelaine chain, and a walnut shell pot of goose-fat balm infused with rosemary. On the lid, someone carved a heart pierced by arrow, likely a scribe moonlighting as hopeless romantic. You scoop a pea-sized dab, rub between palms and pat onto cheeks. The balm shines under candlelight, giving skin a dewy glow centuries before influencers invent ring lights. Historians still argue whether such balms were more cosmetic than medicinal. Monastery records list rosemary salve as a remedy for face chilblain, yet court poets praise it for imparting moonlit gloss. Truth probably flits somewhere between vanity and frostbite prevention. Your next tool is a whetstone smooth pumice block wrapped in linen. You drag it gently across forehead to buff away wind-chapped flakes, ancient microdermabrasion if you will. Light joke wafts in: forget 20-step skincare. Medieval folks kept it to 3. Scrape, oil, pray. The pumice leaves a faint powder of feldspar dust, which you brush off with a swan-down puff borrowed from your aunt's writing quill. Candle sputters. Melted tallow pools at base. You snuff wick, replace with fresh beeswax taper reserved for noble company. The new flame burns cleaner, less smoke, but the honeyed scent lures a lone house moth that circles you like a drunken guard dog. You wave it away, nearly upending mirror. Pausing, you listen. Distant courtyard clatter of buckets, muffled chant from chapel, and the occasional whistle of cold wind squeezing through casement shutters. This chamber may feel luxurious compared to a thatched peasant cottage, yet the draught sees no class. It nuzzles your ankles, reminding you that beauty rituals here require fortitude as much as vanity. You unsheath tweezers forged by local smith. Their tips, slightly misaligned, resemble scissors' estranged cousins, but they do remove the stray brow hair glinting in mirror's warp. Each pluck stings. You bite lip to stifle yelp. Fashion whispers claim narrower brows reveal spiritual devotion, though others think full arches mirror robust health. You settle for middle path, sparing half the hairs, insurance against next season's trend swing. A small cloth sachet tied with lavender thread emerges from coffer, powdered alabaster mixed with ground rice and a pinch of lead carbonate. Yes, the same lead alchemists warned can cloud the mind. You tremble, recall cautionary tale of countess, whose face turned ghost white and eyesight dim after years of milky paint. Yet the lure of noble pallor, symbol of indoor leisure and protection from field labor, wins many hearts. You tap a feather's worth onto nose, instantly several shades paler. candle accentuates the porcelain illusion. Only you and the sachet know the secret sacrifice of eventual wrinkles. Next, you produce a delicate stick of alkanet root soaked in walnut oil, the medieval lipstick equivalent. Rubbed on lips, it leaves a soft berry stain, just enough to suggest blood flow without flaunting sinful desire. Church sermons condemn excessive rouge, calling it vanity's trap, but minstrels praise rosy smiles. You compromise, one gentle swipe, then blocked with linen square. A final flourish. Clasp amber pendant around neck. Some believe amber repels bad humors, others that it masks breath after garlic-laden stew. Either way, it provides warm color contrast to new chalky complexion. Satisfied, you blow out beeswax, plunge room into velvet shadow, and slide mirror back into coffer. The grooming toolkit clinks shut, secrets sealed until next night's ritual. Your fingers, slick with rosemary balm, glide over candle-burned table edge before you step toward straw mattress, pride glowing beneath goose-fat sheen. Whatever tomorrow's market may bray about your looks, sun freckles or lead spots, you've navigated tonight's candlelit mirror with cunning equal to any court lady. You ease onto mattress, letting pillows goose down cradle head. Draft hisses through shutter again, rustling hearth's dying embers. In that lullaby of wind and wax, you drift toward slumber, cheeks warm, skin scented of rosemary and vague lamb stew. The mirror's dented reflection lingers behind eyelids, your face timid and proud under flicker. With one last breath, you surrender to medieval night, trusting candlelit vanity to greet you again under tomorrow's smoky tapers. The rooster hasn't mustered a single crow when a maid rattles your latch, bearing a wooden ewer of spring water cold enough to sting the knuckles. You groan upright, still tasting rosemary on your lips, and shuffle toward a sliver of glassless window where moonlight fades behind slate clouds, perfect lighting to inspect yesterday's handiwork. A quick splash to your face reveals smudges where lead rice powder clumped overnight. Flakes drift like dandruff onto your camise. You dab with linen, vowing to perfect today's complexion ritual, because a visiting baroness renowned for moon-kissed skin arrives at noon, and court rumor insists she judges friendships by pallor alone. You set a brazier ablaze and settle before the coffer once more. Tonight's toolkit returns to stage. First comes the alabaster mix. Lead carbonate, rice flour and powdered pearl. Really crushed eggshell, but no one need know. Mainstream historical fact. By the late Middle Ages, Venetian cerus, essentially refined white lead, became Europe's favored skin whitener, prized for an ivory finish despite its slow-acting toxicity. Chronic users risked hair loss, tremors and fatal anemia. You dip a squirrel hair puff into the jar, tapping off excess so clouds don't choke lungs, and begin patting from jawline upward in slow, even strokes. The mirror's warped curve smooths imperfections, unexpected blessing, while candlelight hides powder's chalky grains. To fix the layer, you fetch a vial of rose water distilled 3 counties away. A few drops on your palm, then a gentle press sets the powder into a velvety shell. As the scent rises, a whisper of garden hope, you recall a courtier's claim that rose water wards off evil spirits nibbling at beauty in sleep. Historians still argue whether such floral hydrosols primarily masked cosmetics' metallic odor or truly soothed irritated skin. Monastery scrolls praise rose distillate for calming hot humors, though physicians rarely agree on dosage. You study reflection. The pale mask works, but neck betrays sun-exposed freckles from last week's herb-gathering jaunt. Solution? A starched linen wimple draped elegantly to chin, channeling fashionable modesty while masking uncooperative pigment. You tuck ends beneath braided hair, letting only alabaster visage peek through a portable moon amid manor corridors. Next challenge. Eyebrows must contrast the snowdrift without defying modesty. Using ash charcoal mix, you trace faint arches like quills across parchment. The lines must appear natural yet distinguished. Too thick, and clerics preach vanity. Too thin, and gossips suspect illness. A light joke flickers. Eyebrow game proves medieval makeup gurus invented subtle flex centuries before social media hashtags. Quirky tidbit emerges from your memory. Some noble women reportedly applied a paste of crushed snail slime and oxidized copper overnight. believing the green hue in morning would fade into delicate bluish shadows prized around eyelids, a proto-eyeshadow if ever there was. You decide not to attempt today. Snail trails and copper stink might jeopardize luncheon appetite. A maid reappears with goat milk porridge and a whisper. The steward heard Baroness Melisende swears by virgin's urine for spot cleansing. You nearly choke on porridge but manage polite smirk, another potion for rumour mill. Scholars later will puzzle over such recipes, some dismissing them as satirical jabs by male chroniclers, others noting urine's ammonia could indeed bleach discolorations over time. While porridge cools, you uncap a tin of sheep suet pomade infused with crushed marigold petals. Dab onto cheekbones and temples, massaging until subtle sheen breaks through powder, transforming your mask into luminous marble. Candlelight catches gloss. Complexion whispers, "I frolic only by moon." You recall the church sermon railing against excessive whiteness as sign of idleness, yet the same preacher accepted tithes from ladies so powdered they resembled chapel statuary. Hypocrisy pairs well with alabaster. To ensure hands match visage, you slide on scented leather gloves steeped overnight in orris root and clove. Each flex releases perfume, ready to waft when you raise goblet later. A quick test handshake with maid sends a cloud of spice drifting down hallway. Mission accomplished. Now lips yesterday's alkanet root returns, but you temper its color with beeswax, producing muted rose rather than sinful crimson. One swipe, blot, repeat. Mirror confirms, pale face, gentle brows, demure flush, canvas complete. You exhale and almost sneeze. Powder dust tickles nostrils, perhaps lid fumes. A soft rap at door reveals Brother Guy, the household physician monk, carrying a parchment roll of star charts. He mumbles that new moon tonight portends excellent whitening potency, should you choose a second application. You humor him with nods. Historians still argue whether medieval lunar calendars genuinely influenced cosmetic routines or merely offered convenient scheduling for gossip circles. Brother Guy adds that barley water flush can purge yellow choler from cheeks. You decline, citing full schedule. Gown awaits. Dove grey silk trimmed with squirrel fur. Cool hue accentuates whiteness. You wriggle into bodice, tug sleeves tight over gloves. Corset laces tightened by maid, prompt shallow breathing, but promise graceful posture. Time for lighting rehearsal. You move toward window where faint daylight seeps. The powder reads differently here, slightly cakey. Solution? Veil of gossamer linen pinned at brow casts flattering blur. An Instagram filter 8 centuries early. Satisfied, you nibble final spoon of porridge, ignoring creeping metallic aftertaste. Lead powder's silent tax. Footsteps echo down corridor. The steward announces Baroness's carriage approaching gatehouse. You gather skirt, stride toward audience chamber, each step scattering clove fragrance, passing bronze mirror in hallway. You glimpse a ghostly figure, yourself, yet otherworldly pale. For a breath you wonder if perhaps beauty's pursuit edges into uncanny valley. What villagers would think seeing this moonlit visage under noon sun. Light joke murmurs, good thing there's no medieval paparazzi. At the chamber, Baroness stands radiant, skin smoother than cream, but undeniably pale enough to rival bridal lace. She studies you, nods approvingly, commenting on delicate glaze. You curtsy, compliments bloom. Conversation turns to recipe trading. She confides mixing ground pearls with egg whites. You pretend surprise while mentally noting dosage. A gentle hour passes. Banter about troubadour ballads, herbal gardens, and best soapstone for pumice. You sip watered wine, ensure red doesn't smudge powder. Brother Guy lingers at doorway, chart in hand, muttering about waxing gibbous synergy. Baroness suggests future moonbathing party for further pallor. You smile, simultaneously thrilled and wary of frostbite. Meeting ends with exchanged sachets, hers of crushed lily, yours of rosemary balm. As she exits, you spy faint tremor in her fingertips. Lead handshake. You vow to research safer whiteners, perhaps ground rice alone. Returning to chamber, you study reflection again. Candles rekindled. The day's pale perfection holds under flicker. Your throat tightens at thought of long-term cost. But tonight, in court, moonlit skin reaps social gold. You exhale, powder drifting like winter dust. Sliding mirror shut. You slip gloves off, inspecting faint grey cast on palms. Impermanence of illusion. You cleanse fingers with vinegar cloth, then settle by fire for brief rest before evening feast. As flames lick logs, you muse beauty here is both armor and albatross. Shining mask shielding from harsh labor while poisoning from within. Eyes heavy, you let head rest on fur collar. Outside, church bell tolls terse. Inside, lead and lavender mingle. Sleep approaches on padded soles, promising dreams where moonlight skin glows without powders or sermons. With soft chuckle, you drift, whispering that tomorrow might involve snail slime, anything to keep up with Baroness's eggshell secret. For now the mirror sleeps, and so do you, face pale as parchment beneath one candle. You rise to a slate-grey sky, whose muted light flatters yesterday's pallor. But today's mission targets a very different canvas. The upper third of your face. High foreheads rule courtly fashion this season, and yours, while respectable, still shelters a fringe of baby hairs that whispered bourgeois at last night's feast. Time to send them packing. You settle onto a padded stool near the casement, roll back your linen veil, and unhook the tiny brass pincers that dangle from your grooming chain. Their tips are sharp as a falcon's beak, forged for no other purpose than persuading hair to vacate the premises. A quick glance into the polished tin mirror confirms the battlefield, a narrow line of fuzz just beneath your wimple's edge. You draw in a slow breath, steady, shallow, because pain loves surprise. Tweezer meets hair, pinch, pull, sting. One down, hundreds to go. Mainstream historical fact. Late medieval beauty manuals praised a lofty brow, equating it with intelligence and piety. Noble women willingly plucked, shaved, or singed hairlines to achieve that coveted expanse, sometimes until brows began halfway up the scalp. After 20 tugs your eyes water, so you pause to dab tears with a lace cuff that now smells faintly of clove from yesterday's glove scent. The maid taps lightly, offering a small bowl of cool parsley water, supposedly calms redness. You accept, grateful for the brief reprieve. Historians still argue whether such herbal washes truly mitigated inflammation or simply provided psychological courage for further plucking. Monastery herbals tout parsley's soothing humours, but barber surgeons scoffed, preferring wine-soaked cloths for their patients and themselves. Refreshed, you tackle the northern frontier again. Light joke bubbles up. Medieval real estate values apparently extend to forehead acreage. Location, elevation. 30 more hairs surrender before you switch tactics, reaching for the pumice stick. A gentle rub abrades leftover stubble into compliance, leaving skin delicately blushed. Quirky tidbit. Some ladies used a paste of vinegar and dove droppings to bleach any stubborn dark follicles. You thank every household saint that your steward failed to procure dove accessories this week. Now you muster eyebrow dramaturgy. Yesterday's charcoal arches must be realigned with your new skyline. You soften a cake of lamp black with a droplet of walnut oil, then stroke a thin, noble outline just beneath the freshly conquered brow plane. Mirror shows success. The arches hover like subtle ravens over snowy fields. But hot ache creeps across forehead, warning of possible swelling. You fetch a chilled slab of alabaster, popular as both decorative inkwell lid and makeshift cooling tile, and press it gently against tender skin. The relief is instant, though the stone steals heat so fast you gasp. A feathered blush blooms where cold meets freshly plucked pores, yet in candlelight it reads as innocent flush, not irritation. Your neighbor from next door arrives unannounced, clutching a small pouch of something that rattles. She's intrigued by your forehead project. Word travels faster than troubadours. You invite her in. She unveils polished river stones, each no bigger than a hazelnut. She swears rolling them across brow. Post-plucking prevents ingrown hairs. You try, and the cool stones massage away lingering sting. She giggles at your grimace, sharing that her cousin rubs onions on brow to discourage regrowth. Works, but you'll smell like supper. Onion therapy goes firmly onto your maybe not list. A humming tension builds. Midday court assembly looms, and you'd prefer to appear radiant rather than raw. You uncap a tiny jar of honey and chamomile salve. One fingertip applied in invisible layer gives skin a dewy finish while sealing micro wounds. Sticky? Slightly, but the sweetness entices no one but the resident moth, whom you shoo away again. With forehead triumphant, you redrape veil, letting its edge frame your newly expanded brow real estate. The look is surprisingly regal. Mirror's warp can't disguise this victory. You smile, careful not to wrinkle powder, and gather your writing kit, ink, quill and a strip of vellum to record today's beauty recipe for future blackmail, should Baroness Melisende's eggshell secrets require leverage. Before departing, you sprinkle a pinch of crushed violet petals into linen pouch hung at belt, an aromatic distraction from any lingering paint smells. Corridor air feels cooler on bare upper brow. Each step is breeze-kissed proof of social elevation, one hair at a time. Down in the great hall, you find seats filling for midday readings. Noble heads turn, eyes flick up to your lofty brow. A monk pauses mid-psalm, perhaps admiring or judging the expanded canvas. You angle face toward tall arched window, letting natural light highlight moon-white forehead and sable brows. A whispered compliment reaches you, such an intelligent visage. Success measured, pain forgotten. Lunch arrives. Pottage and trenchers, heavy on leeks. You mentally note onion hazard. Even the air might threaten your brow's fragrance. As you daintily sip, you spot Baroness with eggshell complexion across table. She raises goblet in salute to your pristine browline. You reciprocate, both allies in the quiet arms race of medieval beauty. While minstrels tune lutes, you retrieve vellum and scribble. Recipe, plucked high brow, lamp black thin arcs, honey chamomile glaze approved by court. The ink dries, you seal note with wax imprinted by your amber pendant's impression. Meal ends, conversation drifts, but forehead remains centerpiece. You excuse yourself, mindful of sun angle, too much might thaw salve. Back in chamber, mirror confirms bruiseless success. You dab fresh rose water, inhale calm fragrance, and settle on bed for a restorative minute. Linen sheets cool your brow, and eyelids flutter. As fatigue releases grip, you think beauty here demands constant vigilance, one pluck away from scandal, one powder from poisoning, yet each ritual builds quiet confidence. You hug that thought, allowing breath to slow, muscles soften, and forehead rest unwrinkled beneath veil's gentle shade. Outside, trumpets announce next activity, but you float in calm pause, happy to let court wait another moment for your elevated presence. You're back at the coffer, just after terse bells, cheeks beginning to resemble yesterday's parchment, too pale, too pious, and in dire need of life before the afternoon hunt procession. You flip the lid and unveil a slim yew wood palette bearing 3 waxy lozenges, crimson beetroot paste, lake madder glaze, and a dubious brick of pork fat laced with crushed cochineal contraband from Iberian traders who swear it melts prettier than winter snow. A quick sniff tells you cochineal still smells vaguely of salted ham. You set it aside. Beetroot will do. You mash a thumbnail sliver against a sliver of goose fat saved from breakfast, swirling until the mixture reaches the consistency of thick jam. A mirror check confirms forehead remains gloriously high, brows perfectly raven. Now to coax a believable flush. Use too little and the Baron's falconer will ask whether you've seen a ghost. Too much and the village priest may brand you Jezebel at Sunday Mass. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval cosmetic manuals, like Trottula's famed compendium, recommended beetroot, mulberry juice, or even sheep blood to tint cheeks. Church councils periodically condemned rouge as a deceitful lure, fit only for women of loose morals. Yet noble courts quietly ignored reprimands when fashion demanded color. You dip ring finger, dab apples of cheeks in tiny circles, and immediately hear Mother Agnes's sermon, echoing from memory. Pride reddens the face now, and blackens the soul later. You smirk, figuring your soul can risk a mild sunburn shade. But the color sits atop ceruse like spilled wine on snow. You recall Brother Guy muttering about rouge binder. Rummaging deeper, you discover a half-empty vial of vinegar steeped with crushed alum. One drop mixed into rouge helps pigment bite through lead layer without streaking. Alchemical sorcery learned from Sicilian traders. You test on inner wrist, watch color fuse into skin like sunrise through frost. Satisfied, you reapply to cheeks, then tap leftover tint onto lips for harmonious bloom. A glance in the mirror reveals healthy warmth beneath aristocratic pallor, a fragile truce between life and marble. Light joke rises, professional hazard, looking dead indoors, feverish outdoors, but subtlety reigns. You pass the pinch test. Pinch cheek lightly, should look same as rouge, not clown. Success measured. You set palette aside and grab a soft rabbit fur pad to diffuse edges. Feather-light strokes erase harsh lines, leaving flush that suggests you just ascended spiral stair without wheezing. Quirky tidbit. Some ladies, fearful of ecclesiastical gossip, painted cheeks only after servants announced the bishop's carriage had rolled past gate, smearing pigment with chicken feathers hidden in sleeves. Later they'd whisper jokes about holy rosiness. You picture them applying rouge behind tapestries while monks recite psalms nearby. To lock color, you pick up a miniature bellows filled with perfumed rice powder. Innovation from Moorish apothecaries. One delicate puff settles translucent veil over cheeks, smelling of cinnamon and violet. Historians still argue whether such aromatic powders primarily set makeup or simply mask the earthy odor of beetroot and goose fat. Either way, they waft prestige through stuffy halls. Satisfied, you slip palette back into coffer and rinse fingertips in mint-infused basin. The coolness, Zing's senses awake just as page boy knocks. Hunting party assembles in courtyard. You smooth veil, tug gloves, and descend spiral stairs, heart doing its own rouge routine from exertion. Courtyard buzzes with clipped hooves and eager hounds. The Baroness Melisende, eggshell complexion glowing, sits idle in emerald wool. She greets you with raised brow, eyes darting to your cheeks. Lovely bloom, sunrise in December, she murmurs. You thank her, internally noting triumph. Maybe chicken feather rumor spared you bishop's glare today. Around fountain's rim, a squire distributes posies of tansy and rosemary to ward foul stable scents. You tuck sprig into glove, realizing its green contrasts rose flush color harmony. Before Pantone existed, another noblewoman frets that her rouge blotched after helmet fitting. You share a lum vinegar tip, earning gratitude and promise of Sicilian marzipan gift. Networking through blush, who needs scrolls? The chaplain ambles by, delivering perfunctory blessing to riders. His eyes linger a heartbeat too long on rosy faces, but he sighs, likely weighing the futility of scolding half the court. You silently vow to attend vespers as penance, or at least to appear at door. Hunt begins. Horns blare, hounds surge, and you canter through leaf-strewn forest lanes. Cold wind lashes, yet rouge holds valiantly, anchored by a lunar magic. Mid-stride you recall a minstrel's ditty comparing maidens' cheeks to winter apples warmed by hearthlight. You chuckle, cheeks already living the lyric. After 2 hares and 1 stubborn boar elude capture, the party halts for spiced wine under oak canopy. A night compliments your vigorous complexion suitable for heroic tales. You sip carefully, ensuring wine doesn't smudge makeup. Nearby, the Baroness's flush has faded to polar white. She frowns, begs her maid for beetroot jar. You lend your pad, generosity sweetened by competition. Return journey. Sees clouds part. Sun shafts spotlighting every rider. You worry rouge may glow too brightly. Sweat along hairline threatens streaks. At manor gates you quickly blot cheeks with linen and dust, fresh rice powder. Damage controlled. In great hall, midday feast is laid. Roast pigeon, honeyed parsnips, and ironically, pickled beetroot. You stifle laugh, opting for boiled turnip instead. No need to ingest your cosmetics. Servants circulate pitchers of mulberry cordial. You raise goblet, toasting nature's blush within and without. Joke lands, Baron snorts. Meal concludes. Minstrels craft ballads celebrating Hunt's modest hall, praising riders' vigor. Your cheeks become lyric note, roses born of winter's kiss. You hide smile behind napkin, mindful of lead powder cracking risk. Afternoon dims. You retreat to solar, where embroidery circle gathers. Threads glint crimson, same hue as rouge. Conversation drifts to color symbolism. Older lady claims Saint Cecilia's martyrdom, blessed red as virtue sign. Younger woman counters church forbids excessive crimson. Debate reveals tension between symbolism and vanity. You sip chamomile, musing beauty standards always juggle righteousness and rebellion. Sun sets, casting amber glow through lattice windows. You catch reflection in pewter jug, rouge mellowed to gentle rose. Mission accomplished. You pen quick diary entry. Beetroot wins bishop stalemate. Alum vinegar essential. Avoid pickled beetroot at table. Hearth embers fade. Eyelids droop. You dab cheeks with rosemary balm to dissolve pigment. Mindful of ceruse beneath. As balm warms skin, you inhale herbal calm. Bed beckons. You slip under wool blankets, cheeks tingling pleasantly. Last thought. Tomorrow's lesson involves hair lightening. Herbal brews under sun. But for now, let rouge rest with you, fading gently like embers into night's hush. The rooster is still negotiating a second syllable when your maid bursts in balancing a copper kettle and a bundle of dried herbs, so large it looks like she uprooted half the apothecary garden. Today's beauty quest shifts from cheeks to tresses, the coveted honey gold shimmer that says, "I spend summers hawking falcons, not hauling buckets." Trouble is, it's January, and your hair leans more mouse brown than midsummer hay. No matter, the court physician's niece swears by an herbal rinse that bottles afternoon sunshine, and you volunteered as first tester. Courage, dear strands. You seat yourself on a three-legged stool before the hearth, draping an old veil across shoulders. The maid soaks a linen sachet stuffed with marigold petals, chamomile buds, and a scandalous pinch of saffron filaments, the latter worth a stable of goats if the steward discovers. As steam curls upward, you inhale grassy sweetness that briefly masks lingering clove perfume from yesterday's gloves. Mainstream historical fact. European texts from the late Middle Ages recommend marigold and saffron infusions, sometimes fortified with stale white wine or goat's milk, to lighten hair. These sunblooms were most popular at winter courts where natural bleaching was impossible. The maid parts your locks, ladling the golden brew slowly down the strands, while you hold a pewter basin to catch runoff. Warm liquid trickles past temples, soaking neckline of camise, but you welcome heat. Castle corridors rival ice caves in February. You recall Baroness Melisende boasting of her Venetian blonding powder, rumored to contain pulverized coral and quicklime. Historians still argue whether these harsher concoctions were more effective or simply burned follicles into submission. Venetian apothecaries kept recipes as trade secrets, fueling debates among modern chemists, examining scorched hair remnants in tombs. Color bath finished. You wrap locks in a length of linen bandage stitched into a turban. Standard practice to marinate pigment without dripping. A light joke pops up. Medieval spa treatment, now with 100% fewer cucumber slices. As brew seeps, the maid guides you toward the solarium, really a drafty turret room with largest south-facing window to trap sunbeams. Overcast sky, of course, laughs at her optimism. No matter, she produces a hand mirror to amplify what little light creeps through cloud breaks. While you rotate beneath improvised spotlight, the maid unpacks curious implements, wooden comb coated in beeswax to seal cuticles, and a strip of fine linen that will later polish strands to glassy sheen. She whispers a quirky tidbit. Some ladies, lacking saffron, steeped hair in horse urine and alum, swearing the ammonia lifted dullness. You gag theatrically. She giggles, nearly dropping mirror. We agree saffron is expensive, but less barnyard. Time passages in slow hearth clicks. To occupy mind, you think back to forehead plucking ordeal, painful but socially profitable, and decide golden hair will complete your winter moon and sun aesthetic. Fingers find pouch where you stored violet petals, aroma calms nerves, mingling with chamomile steam. After half an hour, maid unwraps turban, hair clings damp against scalp, tinted faintly yellow. She produces a small pot of rosemary lavender oil, callback to section 1's balm, warmed near brazier. 5 drops massaged into lengths will add shine, she says. You close eyes as her fingers work, sensation is gentle, almost soporific. She then directs you to sit near hearth until strands dry. A visiting minstrel wanders by, sees you perched like bright pheasant in gloom, and quips, "Brewing ale or brewing beauty?" You toss a linen scrap at him, jokingly of course, earning laugh that echoes down stairwell. Social currency climbs whenever minstrels craft songs about your toilet. Near mid-morning, hair dries. Maid brings polished bronze mirror. Reflection reveals subtle shift, a soft flaxen halo inching toward honey. Not Venetian blonde, but definite sun-kiss where sun never shines. You smile, counting victory points. She urges patience. Repeat baths will amplify luster. To set color, she braids hair loosely, then dusts with rice starch to lock rays. Powder flutters like snow, tickling nose. You remember lead powder warnings and ask about scalp safety. She claims starch is harmless, bread for hair. Historians would likely agree. Starch appears in many extant recipes as dry shampoo and volumizer. Time for public debut. You swap turban for silk kohl, studded with seed pearls, letting freshly brightened tendrils escape at temples. The kohl's mesh emphasizes gleam each time. Head turns. Corridor mirrors confirm upgrade. No longer mouse brown, now early harvest wheat, perfect for afternoon hawking demonstration. In great courtyard, falcon master fastens leather jesses to Lady June's gerfalcon. Courtiers assemble, exchanging compliments thinly disguised as scouting reports. Baroness Melisenda arrives, coral lime blonding still visible but slightly brassy. She eyes your new shade, raises brow, silent props. Light joke lands when you remark, "Seems the sun chased me indoors today." She counters with wink, "And quicklime chased me yesterday." During flight display, your gilded strands catch rare sunbeam. A troubadour nearby scribbles line about stalks of barley blowing free. You pretend not to notice but stash lyric in mental scrapbook. The falcon returns, dropping rabbit kill at master's feet. Attendants cheer, voices bouncing off stone walls. You wonder if falcon sees human plumage as rival display, nature and vanity converging. Late afternoon finds you back in solar, combing residual powder from braid. The maid gently polishes strands with that linen strip, coaxing reflection like liquid candle wax. She advises weekly saffron baths to maintain glow, but warns of over-yellowing. Rumor says one lady baked her hair under sun, so long it resembled straw and snapped off mid-curtsy. You note caution, moderation, even in vanity. One more mainstream fact slips into thoughts. Medieval barbers' manuals record hair lightening accidents, including scalded scalps and permanent bald patches from lye solutions. Some nobles commissioned elaborate wigs to hide damage. Thankfully, your herb path appears safer. Still, you rinse residual brew with rosewater to calm roots. Scent blossoms anew. As evening shadows slide across floorboards, you pen diary. Day's harvest. Saffron chamomile rinse successful. Reflection likened to barley. Avoid horse urine recipes. Ink dries in amber glow. You store mirror, feeling proud of balanced approach. Enough boldness to impress, enough caution to preserve scalp. Lit tippers beckon supper. You join hall where torchlight sets new hue aflame. An apprentice compliments brightness. You respond with modest shrug, internal grin. Even chaplain concedes golden hair, echoes virtue's radiance. Perhaps forgetting earlier redness lecture. Night deepens. In chamber, you unbraid hair. Marvel at subtle shimmer in candlelight. Mission accomplished. You massage a drop of rosemary oil to keep strands supple, then braid loosely for bed. Mattress straw rustles as you settle. Scalp warm beneath linen cap that secures tomorrow's shape. Eyes droop while hearth murmurs. You feel sun and moon merged. Pale forehead of intellect, golden hair of warmth. Sleep drifts near, whispering future plans about scented gloves and breath pearls. You sigh contentedly, letting herb steam memory fade into soft color-washed dreams. A low bell tolls for sexton. You find yourself summoned to the great audience chamber, where introductions to a visiting Lombard envoy will hinge not only on graceful curtsies and flattering conversation, but on how your hands smell. Yes, your hands, because in this manner, palm-to-palm contact carries more social data than a scribe's ledger. So you rummage through the coffer in search of yesterday's trump card, scented gloves. These are no ordinary gauntlets. They're soft kidskin imported from Cordoba, dyed ivory to match winter gowns, and steeped for weeks in a witch's brew of herbs, musk and citrus peel. You lift them to your face, inhaling a bouquet the apothecary called angelic garden. Notes of crushed violets, a whisper of clove, and the faintest spark of ambergris stolen from far-flung shores. Mainstream historical fact: by the late Middle Ages, Spain's glove makers dominated Europe's luxury market, perfecting a process of soaking leather in perfumed oils so richly that gloves could mask the less than heavenly odors of crowded halls and unwashed wool cloaks. Isabella of Castile supposedly exchanged perfumed gloves as political gifts, leather diplomacy stitched in scent. Sliding each glove on feels like sheathing fingers in velvet mist. The kid skin molds instantly to knuckles, leaving just enough looseness at wrist for fashionable slouch.
You give them a gentle flex and whisper a thank you prayer to the goat who contributed its hide to your social ascendance.
Light joke flutters through mind. If gloves could talk, these would spill more secrets than any jester. They attend every handshake after all. Before heading out, you refresh the fragrance with a tiny pumice ball soaked in rose oil, rubbing inside each palm. Quirky tidbit: some court ladies tucked live cloves into glove fingertips so that every gesture released an extra spice note. Downside, they occasionally punctured seams, littering floors with rogue seeds that mice adored. You weigh the risk and skip the cloves. No need to lure rodents to the envoy's feet. Stepping into corridor, you pass Brother Guy, who wrinkles nose appreciatively. He mutters something about olfactory relics of Eden and jots a note on parchment. Historians still argue whether perfumed accessories served primarily hygienic functions, masking sour smells in enclosed halls, or whether they represented coded messages of wealth and erotic allure. Your gloves, you suspect, manage both. They promise hygiene while boasting an aroma the average peasant would never encounter outside church incense. You reach audience chamber, its floor strewn with rushes newly scented by lavender. The Lombard envoy bows, a silver-bearded gentleman wearing burgundy velvet and a thoughtful frown. You advance, offer gloved hand, touch lasting the customary heartbeat and a half. He inhales almost imperceptibly, brows lifting in subtle approval. Conversation ensues about winter roads, falconry, and trade tariffs. Yet underlying each word is a silent acknowledgement that your hands are literal ambassadors. After formalities, you retreat to sideboard, where mulled wine steams. Baroness Melisende breezes in, flaunting her coral quicklime blonde but gloveless, just plain linen mitts. When she lifts goblet, the envoy's gaze flickers toward her hands, then drifts back to you. Baroness notes this with microscopic twitch of lips. Score 1 for angelic garden. But leather diplomacy demands upkeep. Warm hall air coaxes fragrance to fade faster, so you produce a small silver vinaigrette from girdle pouch. Inside lies a vinegar-steeped cotton ball infused with rosemary and orange zest. Emergency refuel. You dab glove cuffs. Scent resurges. The envoy, sipping wine nearby, catches new waft and offers praise. Your court winters must bloom even when gardens sleep. You respond with modest nod, silently thanking the apothecary's recipe. The discussion shifts to textile tariffs, and you notice Baroness discreetly sniffing her linen mitts in dismay. She excuses herself, likely en route to pilfer a vial of clove oil. Light joke: never underestimate competitive sniffing in high society. Later, in chapel aisle, you catch whispers among younger pages debating whether perfumed gloves can ward off miasmas rumored to cause plague. One page argues the cloves confuse bad vapors. You interject kindly. Clean water and open windows help too, earning bewildered stares. Windows are draughty and therefore suspect. Still, you gift them a spare lavender sachet, content to spread small comforts. Evening tableau brings feast of spiced rabbit and almond tarts. You keep gloves on, custom dictates wearing them at table but removing right glove when lifting goblet. You comply, sliding glove off with deliberate grace, letting fragrance linger as you toast envoy's safe journey tomorrow. Your bare hand smells only faintly of rose now, so you pray rabbit doesn't linger instead. After desserts, minstrels strike chord and envoy requests a slow bass dance. Gloves back on, you accept invitation, gliding across flagstones. Each turn releases subtle scent cloud. Envoy's smile widens. You spot Baroness again. Her ad hoc glove refresh apparently involved overly generous musk. She now trails a pungent wake strong enough to alert roaming hounds. She sees your knowing glance, shrugs resigned. Scent wars, it appears, can backfire. Dance ends. The envoy gifts you a silk purse embroidered with Lombard crest, promising to send more Spanish gloves via next caravan. Political alliances sealed by olfactory signatures. Diplomacy never smelled so literal. Chamber quiets post-feast. You retreat to Solar, slipping gloves off carefully, laying them on cedar blocks so leather dries without cracking. You massage fingertips. They tingle slightly from essential oils. A quick rinse in rosewater cleans skin. You note faint shadow of dye along nail beds, evidence of saffron or perhaps oak tannin from tanning process. You dab with vinegar cloth. Stain fades. Writing desk beckons. You jot in diary. Perfumed gloves. Angelic garden recipe. Kid skin plus violet ambergris. Success with envoy. Add caution. Avoid musk overdose like Baroness. Seal entry with beeswax stamp shaped like tiny glove. Hearth embers glow as you drape gloves on wrought iron stand. Air swirls hints of violet, clove and warm leather, calming lullaby after diplomatic whirl. You stretch, letting sweet aroma cradle senses, remembering earlier pain of brow plucking and cold of hair rinse. Beauty, you muse, isn't just seen, it's inhaled, tasted, even heard in rustle of kidskin fingers. Blankets beckon. You slip into bed, hair tucked beneath linen cap to preserve golden hue, hands smelling faintly like evening gardens. The envoy's compliments echo as gentle ASMR in mind. Candle flickers low. Outside, wind sings through arrow slit, carrying lavender rush fragrance from audience hall. You inhale deeply, letting perfumed memory soften muscles. Eyes close. Last thought drifts. Tomorrow, breath pearls. Spice beads await on horizon. But tonight scented gloves stand watch on cedar, diffusing calm into dreams, where dove-free hair bleach and lead-free powder rule fashion kingdom. Sleep settles, fragrant and deep. The candles in the banquet hall flare high tonight, each flame wobbling like a gossiping tongue, and you suddenly remember too late that the leek-infused rabbit stew served at noon still lingers in your mouth like an uninvited minstrel. You need a remedy before the chessboard flirtation planned with Sir Raymond after supper. Garlic fumes could topple romance faster than spilled ink, so you hurry to your coffer for salvation in the form of breath pearls. These are no mere sugared comfits. Each pearl is a tiny sphere of hardened honey, mixed with powdered cinnamon, cardamom, and a hint of frankincense resin. Rolled smooth between fingertips, they gleam like beads cut from sunrise glass, except of course medieval glass seldom reaches such clarity. You pop one onto your tongue. Its outer shell dissolves, releasing a warm, spicy bloom that pushes leek shadows toward the exit. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval apothecaries crafted spiced comfits, anise, caraway, fennel, coated in successive layers of sugar, boiled with rosewater. Nobles sucked them to freshen breath after rich onion-laden meals. Records from 1380 detail King Charles VI's household ordering dragees before every major feast. Yours, while homemade, follows similar principles. Honey instead of exotic cane sugar, cinnamon from Levant caravans promised by the same envoy who adored your perfumed gloves. You roll the pearl across palate, feeling texture shift from grit to silk. Meanwhile, you retrieve a small silver toothpick, a tapered quill of herringbone gifted by Baroness Melisenda after yesterday's olive incident. You discreetly work it between molars, ousting a rogue parsley sprig. Quirky tidbit. Some courts fashion gold toothpicks hinged to signet rings, flaunting hygiene like jewelry. One Flemish duke reportedly wore his as pendant, sparking trend until churchmen deemed it vanity on a chain. Garlic still protests in backthroat crevices. Time for heavier artillery. A sprig of fresh mint soaked in vinegar and honey, kept in a glass vial the color of drowned jade. You bite gently. Mint oil floods senses. Vinegar bites and then mellows, washing palate clean. Historians still argue whether such vinegar infusions served medicinal roles or cosmetic ones. Monastic infirmaries touted them for clearing pestilent miasma, while troubadours praised mint as kiss-bright basilisk slayer. Either way, it works. You pace before hearth, letting flames warm cheeks while mint's frost cools tongue. Thermal contrast soothing, almost hypnotic. Yesterday's saffron-lit hair catches amber glow. You imagine every pivot releasing a halo of clean breath and violet glove scent, multi-layered defense line against culinary ambush. The maid enters bearing a small wooden box lined with linen. Inside lie more breath pearls, these dusted with powdered sugar like miniature snowballs. She explains they're gifts from the Lombard envoy, recipe guarded by Venetian spice merchants. You thank her, tucking box into girdle pouch. Sir Raymond might welcome one after sampling heavily spiced boar. Maid adds another tip. Chew dried licorice sticks, said to sweeten breath and colour thoughts cheerful. You recall seeing monks gnaw slender black roots during scriptorium breaks. They claim it wards drowsiness. You accept a stick, nibbling end. Bittersweet molasses flavour mingles with lingering cinnamon, a symphony better than chapel choir practice. Time to test results. You blow lightly into cupped palm. Gloves mask some scent, but your nose catches honey and mint. No trace of leak. Light joke surfaces. Medieval breathalyzer. Involves sniffing your own leather palms. If you faint, try again. Satisfied, you head toward banquet. Great hall welcomes with roasted cup and aroma, harp strains and glittering candelabras. You slide into high-backed chair beside Sir Raymond, who already fingers bishop piece on carved ivory chessboard. He looks up, smiles, no flinch. Success measured in eyebrow stillness. Conversation begins. You quip about moon-high foreheads commanding chessboard strategies, referencing your hairline victory. Sir Raymond laughs, counters with compliment about sunlit tresses. While moving pawns, you casually offer him a breath pearl. He accepts, remarking on its pilgrim root spice. Within moments, cinnamon perfume wafts from his side of board as well. Now both play in aromatic truce. Mid-game pause for wine. Servants pour mulled claret steeped with orange zest. You sip citrus marries mint without discord. Across table, Baroness watches, perhaps regretting musk mishap. She raises goblet in your direction. You lift yours. Confident breath floats sweet, not pungent. Game ends in amicable stalemate. Sir Raymond agrees to rematch after Vespers. You promise new pearls of ginger rose next time. Chess pieces reset, but conversation lingers. He asks about saffron rinse secrets. You share chamomile recipe, noting caution against urine bleach. He laughs, eyebrow arching at bold honesty. Breath pearls, it seems, unlock social ease as much as fragrance. Later, minstrel begins ballad praising lips like spice, comfort sweet. Listeners chuckle, chewing their own dragees, distributed by servants. You realize you've sparked fleeting yet fragrant fad. Crumbly sugar pearls disappear faster than almond tarts. Feast winds down. You tuck extra pearls into silk purse, planning to place one on pillow as post-meal mint. Returning to chamber, you pass Brother Guy, who whiffs cinnamon cloud and raises brow approvingly. He mutters about writing treatise on oral humours and cinnamon's vapour, promising to credit your experiments. Back in room, you pause at mirror. Face still bears rosy flush. Lips a soft anise tint from licorice. You sip leftover mint vinegar. Swish, spit into ash bucket. Final rinse. Breath now crisp as frost on monastery cloister. You note faint honey film on teeth. Dental hygiene tomorrow will involve linen rag and sage ash. Diary time. By candle's steady glow you jot. Spice pearls quell garlic, rescue chess flirtations. Recipe: honey, cinnamon, cardamom, frankincense resin. Roll small, dry one day. Add reflection. Church may frown, but bishops themselves nibble comfits after eel pie. You seal entry, extinguish taper. Sliding beneath blankets, you suck final pearl lightly, letting sweetness lull muscles. Candle's ember pops. Outside, wind hushes. You exhale sugar-mint breath into cool chamber air. Proof that even in an age without toothbrushes, a handful of spices can script social magic. Sleep drifts nearer, breath pearls dissolving, until only faint cinnamon ghosts remain. You curl deeper, content that tomorrow's encounters, be they sermon or sausage breakfast, will start not with garlic doom but with whispers of angelic garden and spice-sweet confidence. You've just drifted off after your cinnamon-laced triumph when a knock jars you back to wakefulness. Brother Guy, ink on his sleeves and worry on his brow, asks a favour. Would you accompany him to St. Eustace's Priory at the edge of the estate? The abbot wishes to borrow a few medicinal herbs, and Brother Guy, ever shy, hopes your social polish might grease monastic wheels. You accept, partly out of gratitude for his balm advice, partly out of curiosity. How do men sworn to humility handle beauty when the rest of court chases moon-bright foreheads and saffron curls? The walk is brisk, morning fog curling over frost-hardened fields. Your hair, tucked into linen cap, still whispers chamomile. Gloves stay pocketed. Monks value plainness over perfume. Stone walls rise from mist, and you enter through a low door into a cloister that smells of beeswax, wet stone and faint rosemary. Brother Guy introduces you to Abbot Theobald, a kindly man whose tonsure gleams beneath torchlight. His smile carves deep lines yet radiates calm. You notice at once. No fragrant gloves, no rouge, yet monks are hardly dishevelled. Each robe is patched but immaculate, fingernails trimmed, beards shaped to neat crescents. Mainstream historical fact, Benedictine and Cistercian rules required regular ablutions, communal bath each Saturday, and trimmed hair to discourage lice. Cleanliness, they argued, honoured God even within vows of austerity. Abbot leads you past scriptorium, where novices painstakingly copy psalms. Quills splash ink, but margins remain spotless. Evidence of disciplined hands. Your eyes land on a wooden shelf lined with horn combs, pumice stones and tiny ear scoops, eerily similar to your aristocratic toolkit, minus the silver handles. Quirky tidbit. Some abbeys issued ear picks, carved from goose quills. Monks shared them communally, disinfecting with vinegar each vespers. You discreetly imagine Baroness fainting at shared grooming implements. Brother Guy requests rosemary and thyme for poultices. A lay brother nods and fetches bundles from herbarium. As you wait, you spot a stone basin filled with tepid water, beside which sits a single bar of lye soap. A monk dips hands, scrubs briskly, and then dries on linen cloth hanging nearby. You ask about detergents. He explains they render soap from kitchen drippings and ash, frugal yet effective. Historians still argue whether monastic soaps outperformed perfumed court versions. Archaeological residue tests suggest higher lye content, meaning monks might have boasted cleaner but harsher skin. Abbot notes your interest and invites you to witness tonsure hour. In a side chamber, a novice kneels while senior brother wields sheep shears honed to paper-thin edge. With deft snips, he reshapes the corona, leaving a neat ring of hair. You flinch, recalling your modest hair-plucking pain. Here, entire crowns vanish monthly. Light joke bubbles up. At least monks skip the saffron rinse. Scalp sunburn would be eternal. After tonsure, the novice bows to a small table where lavender oil waits, 2 drops massaged onto bare skin. Fend off dryness and itch. Humble skincare, yet effective. Abbot mentions they distill the oil themselves, selling surplus to local apothecaries. Commerce cloaked in charity. You follow Abbot into refectory. Noon meal, root stew, rye bread and watered ale. No garlic, no leeks. Breath pearls unnecessary. Silence prevails, except for rustle of pages. A designated reader recites St. Augustine's musings on vanity. You chew quietly, reflecting how monkish minimalism contrasts your spicy, gilded world. Yet there's beauty here, the symmetry of habits, the orderly rows of herbs, the clean-shaven crowns reflecting candlelight. Meal ends. Abbot gestures to lavabo station. Monks line up pouring copper ewers over each other's hands. Mutual purification. You join, water chilling but refreshing. A novice offers rough flax towel. Its coarse weave exfoliates palms better than any beeswax polish. You glimpse your reflection in brass basin, face pale, cheeks calm, yet this setting reframes your cosmetics as unnecessary noise. Brother Guy receives herb bundles. In gratitude, you offer Abbot a sachet of violet petals. He hesitates, then accepts, promising to place it among linens to uplift infirmary patients. He, in turn, gifts you a small vial of lavender distillate and a wooden comb carved with tiny vine scrolls. Carved words read, Pulchritudo via temperantia, beauty through temperance. On return trek, Fog has lifted. Sun catches your hair. Saffron glimmer persists, but lavender now threads the air from vial in pocket. Brother Guy walks in reflective silence before confessing envy. Your court dazzles, yet sometimes forgets serenity. You nod, fingering comb, sensing new perspective. Back at Manor, trumpets blare, archery contest starting. You head to chamber, considering whether to powder cheeks anew or honor monastic influence by going bare. You compromise, wipe residual rouge, leaving faint natural flush from cold. You smooth hair, but skip glove perfume, opting for single lavender drop at wrist. Monk's humility mingled with courtly grace. In grand courtyard, courtiers gather, some with brows plucked to oblivion, others flaunting musk clouds thick enough to stop arrows mid-flight. Sir Raymond greets you. He notices subtler scent. Different today, he muses, like meadow after rain. You smile, credit St. Eustace's still room. Archery commences. While waiting your turn, you offer Sir Raymond the wooden comb. He laughs but pockets gift, intrigued by carving. You loose arrow, bullseye. Crowd applauds modestly. Baroness looks perplexed at your minimal paint, yet steady aim. Light joke forms in mind. Fewer cosmetics mean less weight. Arrow flies truer. Evening approaches. You retire early, skipping feast rich with garlic. In chamber, you pour lavender drops into basin, setting gentle steam free. You wash face, removing residual lead. Water turns faintly grey. You think of monks scrubbing hands with lye. Stripped but renewed. Mirror shows a calmer visage, pale yet lively eyes, hair softly bright, forehead high but not throbbing. You braid hair, tie with unadorned linen ribbon rather than jeweled clasp. Diary time. Visited priory, learned temperate grooming, lavender distillate calming, communal care inspires. You add, beauty sometimes hides in simplicity. Note to rest skin tomorrow. Candle sputters. You slide under covers. Lavender drift, lulling senses. Wind outside shifts oak boughs, mimicking cloister whispers. You breathe steadily, mind replaying monks' symmetrical routines. Water over hands, lavender balm on scalp. Sleep envelops you without cinnamon crutch. As consciousness fades, you promise morning gift to maid. Spare breath pearls wrapped in flax, courtesy of moderate generosity. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow's cosmetic ritual will start with a deep breath of unadorned air. Luxury rarely savoured in halls of spice and powder. A cock crows somewhere beyond the ramparts, and sunlight sneaks between shutters onto the foot of your bed, flashing little Morse code patterns that insist you wake. You promised yourself a skin rest day, but those plans evaporate when a page bursts in with news. The castle armourer has organised an impromptu tilt for visiting knights, and every lady is invited to observe, or in your case lend a steadying hand to Sir Raymond's buckle situation. You groan, but curiosity wins. Besides, nothing says spa morning like the perfume of linseed oil and steel. You braid hair quickly, letting a few honeyed strands escape to catch light. Minimal fuss, no ceruse today. Instead, you splash cold lavender water, courtesy of St. Eustace's Priory, across face, relishing the brisk sting that wakes pores without poisoning them. You smear a fingertip of rosemary balm under eyes to soften the lavender chill. Cheeks retain a natural tint from yesterday's archery success, so you skip beetroot rouge. Today's aesthetic will be field fresh observer. Strolling to the tilt yard, you find squires buzzing like bees in an iron orchard. Helmets line trestles, their surfaces dull from yesterday's dust. Enter the armourer, a barrel-chested man, swinging a bristle brush dripping with a mysterious honey-coloured polish. He slaps the brush against breastplates, coaxing instant mirror shine. Mainstream historical fact. Knights in late medieval Europe polished armour with a concoction of tallow, beeswax and fine pumice to prevent rust and reflect sunlight, both practical and psychological. A gleaming cuirass could dazzle opponents and broadcast wealth. Sir Raymond spots you, visor up, cheeks already streaked with smear of polish. He begs help reaching stubborn hook near gorget. As you lean in, you smell the polish. Beeswax and a whisper of citrus, far nicer than expected. Helping him latch the clasp, you note that the armourer's paste has softened his cheek skin where it smudged. The oils leave a gentle glow. You tease, Who knew your war paint doubles as face cream? He laughs, smearing a dab onto your hand in playful revenge. You examine the smear, velvety, warm, aromatic, quirky tidbit. Some chroniclers record that squires, after buffing armor, rubbed leftover wax into their own hands to heal chapping. One enterprising knight's lady supposedly bottled the residue, marketing it as brilliance unguent. Historians still argue whether armor wax entered mainstream cosmetics or remained a stable-yard secret. The absence of labeled jars in archaeological digs keeps the debate alive. Sir Raymond mounts his destrier. Sunlight hits his cuirass and flashes like lighthouse flare. You shield eyes, then notice your own reflection on his breastplate, distorted but luminous. An idea sparks. Perhaps a little of that polish could serve as impromptu highlighter. The armourer is nearby, dunking cloth into bucket. You approach, asking politely for a dab to mend a leather belt. He grins, guessing motives but obliges. With stolen beeswax glob hidden in kerchief, you retreat behind a tent flap. Using ring finger, you warm wax, dabbing minimal amount along cheekbones and the bridge of nose. Mirror absent, but you trust sun's feedback. A quick tilt of head shows a soft gleam, not oily. Light joke flits through mind. Medieval contouring. No brushes, just battlefield leftovers. Trumpets blare. Joust begins. You perch on wooden gallery beside Baroness Melisenda, who sniffs the air suspiciously, expecting clove or musk, but catching faint beeswax instead. She compliments the subtle sheen, asks which apothecary sells it. You shrug. Stable-yard exclusive. Her pupils widen. Trade secrets ignite envy yet again. Below lances clash. Splinters spark. Sunlight bounces off a dozen polished visors in rippling disco flashes. You note how knights with better shine seem psychologically bigger, drawing more cheers. Sir Raymond unhorses rival in second tilt. Audience erupts. He salutes you, cuirass beaming like polished glass. That same beam reflects onto Baroness, momentarily spotlighting quicklime brassiness in her hair. She adjusts veil, muttering. Between rounds, squires run cloths over armor, reapplying wax to keep mirrors gleaming. One young squire complains of cracked knuckles. Older mentor smears buffing residue on boy's hands, advising, nature's glove. You observe considering potential for a court hand cream franchise, until you recall Bishop's sermon on vanity. Maybe keep idea tucked in diary. As finals conclude, you join victors in armory. Helmets come off. Foreheads glisten from sweat and wax blend. Sir Raymond's cheek patch now gleams healthier than your rosemary balm ever achieved. No redness, no dryness. Convinced, you apply leftover wax to cuticles. Instant shine, subtle honey scent. Armorer catches you, winks. He demonstrates technique. Mix equal parts melted beeswax, rendered mutton tallow, and a spoon of lemon rind. Simmer, strain through linen. The pumice, he explains, goes in last for polishing metal, but can be left out for skin version. He slaps a dab on his own elbow, calloused but now glowing. You note recipe meticulously on scrap parchment using charcoal stub. By late afternoon, joust spectators disperse. You head to Great Hall, washable wax still faint on cheeks. Glimpsing pewter platter reflection, you approve. Healthy glisten without morbidity of lead. Even Brother Guy nods, sniffing faint citrus. He jots again, future treatise gaining chapters quickly. Supper reveals hearty venison stew. Sans garlic breath, pearls get night off. At table, Baroness interrogates armor about wax. He deflects, claiming secret belongs to forge. She vows to send her valet tomorrow. You hide smile behind spoon. Post-meal, you stroll courtyard with Sir Raymond. He confesses shoulder skin never felt softer. You jokingly suggest nightly spa. Moon, avoiding old habit of dawn, casts silver across cobbles, catching your wax highlight. Sir Raymond notices, lightly traces cheek with gloved thumb. Impressed, no rouge applied. Romance level ups courtesy of stable wax, unexpected wingman. Returning to chamber, you warm leftover wax and dab on cracked lips. Slight citrus tingle but soothing. You store kerchief paste in coffer, labeling, Night's Glow Balm. Diary entry, armor polish recipe. Add lavender for scent, potential winter skin salve. Include caution, Avoid pumice near eyes. You cleanse face with warm lavender water, yet let fine residue stay overnight, conditioning. Hair braided. You slip into bed, inhaling faint beeswax. The scent mingles with wool blankets, reminiscent of hive in summer orchard. You consider tomorrow's plan. Test balm on boots. Might add shine without grim odor. Sleep nudges in. You smile at irony. Beauty secret forged in battlefield prep. As eyelids lower, distant clang of hammer on anvil echoes lullaby. You picture sparks flying, wax melting, skin glowing beneath steel. Dream begins with you wielding brush, painting moonlight onto cheeks of entire court, baroness included, while nights cheer reflection warfare. You laugh softly, drifting, cloak wrapped tight. You leave the castle's sweet beeswax haze and follow a dirt track down to the tenant village market day. And rumor says the stalls are bursting with carrot tops, sheep's milk cheese, and for those who know where to look, fresh beauty innovations unfiltered by court etiquette. The moment your boots hit rutted ground, you hear crows gossiping overhead, smell wood smoke and stewing cabbage, and feel winter sun stroking your cheeks with a chill bright honesty that no alabaster powder could fake. Past a pen of bristling hogs stands a knot of milkmaids, red-haired and freckled, bargaining over clay jugs. Their faces are flushed a warm copper and generously dusted with sun speckles. They glow with vitality that seems downright rebellious compared with the marble complexion prized inside castle walls. One girl catches your curious stare, laughs and taps a freckle as if it were a winning dice roll. Good spots mean good milk, she says, winking. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval country folk rarely shunned the sun. Brown skin and freckles broadcasted hours of honest labor, signaling reliability in a landscape where planting and harvesting trumped aesthetic dogma. You trail them to a booth where a bearded herbalist sells tin pots of shepherd's salve. He claims it soothes cracked knuckles and chapped lips, leaving a healthy shine that makes lads think you've swallowed the sun. Ingredients: rendered sheep tallow, calendula petals and pinches of ground carrot seed. Nothing like the imported ambergris perfumes up in the manor, yet the scent is pleasantly earthy, almost sweet. Quirky tidbit: the herbalist confides some villagers mix chimney soot into salve and smear it under eyes as a primitive sunblock. Apparently soot glare beats snow glare when you're herding sheep on frost-bright hillsides. You smile, picturing Baroness Melissenda's reaction to a soot-smudged contour kit. Nearby, an elderly washerwoman stretches linen on a hedge to dry, arms mottled with brown sun patches. She notices your curiosity and explains freckles are St. Brigid's kisses, proof you've worked in God's open air. She proudly rolls up sleeve to reveal an armful of them. Historians still argue whether church sermons reinforced or condemned such folk legends. Parish registers show variant tales labeling freckles as mystical, sinful, or simply weather marks. Either way, the washerwoman radiates pride in her spotted badge of toil. A whiff of roasted barley draws you toward a kettle where a lanky boy pours ale skin tonic leftover wort cooled and mixed with barley flour to create a slushy mask. Villagers slap on cheeks after long days. He says it drinks up the burn, bragging that field hands keep barrels of it near plowshares. You dip finger, smear tiny dab atop hand. The paste dries cool, leaving faint malt scent and subtle tawny tint. Light joke pops in your mind. Medieval bronzer, drink half, wear half. The boy snickers, offering a mug of raw ale for internal glow, but you decline. Diary still bears note about leak breath. Further on, a weaver's teenage daughter sells ribbons and a curious twig bundle labeled birch bark brightener. She crushes flakes, mixes with goat milk, and pats onto cheeks for a soft rose gold hue that complements sun-speckled skin. You try a swipe, mild warmth blooms. She confesses recipe came from traveling Romani traders who claimed birch bark lures good fortune. Historians debate the trade routes of such folk remedies. Were they pan-European or hyper-local? The daughter shrugs, works better than beetroot when coin is tight. Across the lane, a blacksmith pauses mid-swing to plunge soot-speckled hands into water trough. Droplets glimmer on tanning forearms, scars like silver worms. He catches you staring, grins. Metal sparks make freckles of their own. He claims the iron dust embedded in skin toughens it against winter wind. You wonder if there's scientific basis. Likely not. yet the story has forged his confidence. Returning towards Central Green, you smell drying onions and wood tar. Children dart past, cheeks ruddy, hair messy and brilliant in sunlight. You realize these villagers carry no mirrors, yet they possess uncurated beauty, wind-teased hair, sunlit faces, wide smiles free from lead pallor. Their aesthetic arises from function, salves to soothe cracked skin, tonics to dull sunburn sting, ribbons to tame wind-whipped tresses. You touch your high forehead beneath veil and feel faintly silly, yet appreciative of dual worlds. At a stall selling combed wool, a shepherdess demonstrates how she reuses lanolin grease left in fleece as hand cream. She rubs thumb against palm, skin immediately shines buttery. You sample a dab. It smells sheepy but sinks quickly, leaving weatherproof sheen. She laughs. Better than castle wax, I bet. You recall armor polish glow and nod. Different kingdom, same goal. By midday the weak sun intensifies. Your own cheeks warm, freckles you hadn't noticed begin to declare themselves. You remember Armour's beeswax salve in kerchief pocket, tempting but not needed here. Instead you purchase a tin of shepherd's calendula salve and a bundle of birch bark flakes, bartering a leftover cinnamon breath pearl. The herbalist marvels, pockets pearl carefully, and tosses an extra marigold sprig into your basket. As shadows shorten, you join villagers near well for communal meal, barley pottage ladled into wooden bowls. No garlic today, mercifully. They chat about weather reading. Freckles darken quickest when spring heat nears. One grandmother touches your cheek, noting new spots, good harvest omen. You smile, feeling part of this sun-loving fraternity for a heartbeat. Later you trek uphill, basket swinging. Wind lifts veil. Hair escapes braid in sunlit strands, blending aristocratic saffron with peasant practicality. Back at Castle Gate, the guard eyes your freckled cheeks, surprised by absence of ceruse mask. You offer him marigold sprig. He tucks it behind helm, grinning. In chamber, mirror reveals subtle copper flush and a constellation of tiny freckles marching across bridge of nose. You dab shepherd's salve, its calendula scent, earthy, soothing. No lead, no lavender, just honest field fragrance. You muse in diary, sun freckles, badges of vigor, may keep them. Add note, ale skin tonic, curious, ask kitchen for wart. Clerk's trumpet summons you for evening vesper, but you decide freckles and modest glow suit chapel candles. No fresh powder needed. Passing Baroness in corridor, you note her quick lime blonde under torch glare. She studies your cheeks, puzzled but intrigued. Inside chapel, stained glass paints faces with rainbow flickers. Your newfound speckles mingle with cobalt light, resembling constellations across quiet sky. Brother Guy begins chant about humility. You join softly, freckles radiant under holy blue. After service you retire. Hearth crackles. You massage salve into hands, remembering blacksmith's story. Mirror frame glints. You see healthy sun-touched skin that needed zero noble intervention. Light dims, blankets rustle. You breathe scent of calendula and wood smoke, letting village memories settle like warm hay. Sleep draws close. Last conscious thought. Tomorrow you might mix lanolin and lavender, blend worlds, because beauty isn't castle or cottage, it's resourcefulness in any light. Smile curves as dreams gather, freckle constellations guiding you through tranquil night. You're summoned at dawn by the castle chirurgeon, a title that means barber with extra knives, because Lady Isabel has acquired a stubborn facial blemish right before next week's court masque. Rumour says the spot has its own heraldry. The chirurgeon, desperate to preserve his reputation, requests your calm bedside manner, and more importantly, your growing notebook of beauty tricks. You oblige, partly to see the fabled infirmary tools, partly to satisfy morbid curiosity. When does cosmetic dabble slide into minor surgery? Inside the infirmary, herb smoke coils with iron tang. Lady Isabel lies on a straw mattress, veil lifted to reveal a small angry carbuncle at her jawline. The chirurgeon presents his arsenal, bronze lancet, goose quill suction tube, and a ceramic pot of verdigris green salve. Mainstream historical fact. Medieval medical texts, like those by Avicenna and later Henri de Mondeville, recommended copper-based compounds for skin lesions, believing copper's dry and warm properties drew out excess moisture. Unfortunately, verdigris can also burn healthy tissue, medicine and makeup shadowboxing on skin. He smears a pinpoint of the salve onto a wooden spatula. The color reminds you of aged wine jugs. Equal parts fascinating and alarming. Lady Isabel winces as the paste touches blemish, feeling the metallic sting. You offer her a cinnamon breath pearl. Sometimes placebo's sweetness outweighs lancing pain. She rolls it gratefully across tongue. While waiting for Salve to draw the evil humors, the surgeon invites you to examine his shelf of medicated cosmetics. Honey lead plasters to erase scars, mercury sublimate ointments promising porcelain complexions, and tiny vials of arsenic water marketed as youth dew. Light joke strikes you, medieval skincare motto, a little poison goes a long way. He chuckles ruefully, admitting half his craft is balancing beauty with not quite fatal dosing. You spot a thin copper sheet shaped like a butterfly. He explains it's a night patch. Ladies tape it over spots so verdigris works slowly without staining linens. Historians still argue whether such copper patches genuinely healed or simply hid blemishes until natural recovery. Some merchant ledgers record bulk sales to Paris courts, while monastic chronicles caution they etch false freckles upon maidens. Lady Isabel's jaw tingles fierce. The chirurgeon readies lancet. You distract her with tales of the village trip, freckles being St. Brigid's kisses, shepherd's salve soothing windburn. She laughs, tension easing. Lancet pierces. A bead of fluid surfaces dabbed away with linen tuft soaked in rosewater. Chirurgeon quickly applies fresh verdigris mixed with beeswax, his proprietary drying seal. He bandages with silk strip, promising reduced swelling by sunset. Quirky tidbit emerges. He claims some knights request copper salve under helmets to prevent tilting pimples from sweat and steel contact. He even sold a jar to Sir Raymond last tourney. You imagine Sir Raymond's shining cuirass and secretly hope copper doesn't turn his cheek chartreuse. Procedure over. You escort Lady Thalbal to Sola. She worries about green stain. You assure her silk bandage doubles as fashion accent. Battle ribbon, you tease. She giggles, pain subsiding. Back in infirmary, chirurgeon demonstrates creation of verdigris, suspending copper strips above vinegar vapors until blue-green crystals bloom. He scrapes them into mortar, grinding with wine and egg white. The result, iridescent salve bright enough to paint chapel icons. Indeed, medieval illuminators used verdigris for emerald robes. Beauty, medicine and art share palette. He offers small tin for your notes. Use sparingly on stubborn spots, not freckles you've grown fond of. You accept, tucking into girdle pouch beside birch bark flakes. Before leaving, you notice jar labeled white lead milk. He sighs. Nobles demand it despite warnings. He dilutes with almond oil to lessen harm. Better I administer than some quack, he mutters. A moral trapeze artists know well. Afternoon finds you in garden loga, contemplating interplay of vanity and medicine. You test a pinhead of verdigris salve on inside wrist. Cool, tingling, green smear. You quickly wipe off, recalling copper's bite. Diary entry imminent. Verdigris potent. Use only on true blemish, never entire face. So Raymond appears, cheek bandaged similarly. He confesses helmet rash. Chirurgeon's copper tonic stings, but feels less bulky than beeswax. You gift him shepherd's salve for aftercare. He thanks you with bright grin, green edge poking from gauze. Evening, Lady Isabel removes silk strip, swelling down, salve crusted like emerald dust. She smiles, relieved, and rewards you with tourmaline brooch. Success, medicine masquerading as cosmetic triumphed, though copper left faint mint-hued halo. You suggest pale woad powder tomorrow to blend tint. She agrees. Mainstream fact reappears during supper, when Brother Guy reads aloud from Trotula, about balms of quicksilver rendering skin fair, yet may unseat mind. The hall stiffens. You note subtle glance between Baroness and chirurgeon, shared awareness of thin line between glow and grief. Post-feast, you pen diary. Surgical touch-ups blur vanity and health. Balance is art. Add light joke. If beauty is pain, copper is medieval ice pack, Cold, colourful, questionable. You seal note with wax. Before bed, you cleanse wrist with lavender water. Slight green shadow persists, but no irritation. Coppers flirt, not attack. You massage beeswax armor balm atop. Mixed worlds again. Blankets pull up. Candle dims. You trace tourmaline brooch facets. Gratitude for safe outcome. Thoughts wander. Moon phases. Tomorrow's topic might favor brow trims. Extract copper's edge. You yawn, letting lavender calm wrap senses. Outside, distant clank of Churgeon's pestle echoes lullaby. Sleep descends, tinted faintly green, promising dreams where beauty potions heal more than harm. Mid-evening finds you perched on the castle's south tower parapet, hood drawn tight against the coastal gust, eyes fixed on a half-lit moon hovering like a silver coin. Someone tucked into the sky's velvet purse. Tonight is trimming night, according to a weather-beaten parchment. Brother Guy swears by a lunar calendar, accusing certain phases of sabotaging brows, split ends, and even the success of cheek rouge batches. You've humoured many rituals, snail slime, armor polish highlighters, but deliberate eyebrow snipping by moon timetable is new territory. Still, the Priory's lavender distillate didn't let you down, and the idea of harmonizing vanity with celestial choreography feels too poetic to pass up. The parchment's ink, ochre and worm-eaten, shows a wheel of lunar quarters annotated with cryptic runes. First crescent, pluck for patience, gibbous, snip for shine, waning half, avoid steel, lest new hairs rebel. Brother Guy insists the gibbous moon draws blood humours downward, reducing redness. You raise a skeptic brow, already curated, thank you. Yet curiosity nudges you to try. Mainstream historical fact. Many 13th century medical compilations, like the Tacuinum Sanitatis, advised aligning haircuts, bloodletting, and even baths with planetary and lunar cycles, believing bodily fluids rose and fell like tides. Barbers kept pocket almanacs next to razors. You retreat indoors to a candlelit alcove, unroll grooming kit onto a narrow window ledge. Brass tweezers, miniature shears the Churgeon loaned sterilized after Lady Isabel's copper caper, and beeswax taper smelling faintly of marigold. Outside, ocean gusts thrum against arrow slits, setting a low percussion for tonight's cosmetic ritual. You breathe slowly, matching heartbeats to the waves. Inhale 4 counts, exhale 6, ASMR rhythm courtesy of nature. Mirror propped, you study arches, the raven tint from lamp-black still frames, high brows, stray wisps peek along temples, a fortnight's growth awaiting verdict. First task, comb each brow with trimmed feather quill to isolate rebels. The flame's glow flickers, painting brows in alternating gold and shadow, reminding you of last night's armor gleam. You snip a lone hair-defying curve. Pain is minimal, yet superstition whispers, misjudge the phase, risk patchy regrowth. You glance at the parchment to confirm. Gibbous trimming favors graceful arcs. Satisfied, you continue. Angling shears so clipped ends fall onto a square of linen. Light joke sparks. Medieval recycling. Use eyebrow clippings for pillow stuffing, if feathers scarce. You giggle softly. Shears stalling mid-snip. Laughter breaks tension. Superstition sighs in corner. Halfway through, a gust sneaks under door, threatening candle. You shield flame with palm, feeling heat lick knuckles scented faintly of armor's wax. In its glow you spot tiny green tint at wrist. Verdigris souvenir from wrist test. The copper memory reminds you that beliefs, be they lunar or chemical, can bless or curse depending on dosage. Snipping resumes. To steady hands you hum verse from troubadour ballad about moon-bathing maidens combing starlight through ebony strands. Notes drift among stone arches. Echo soothes nerves. Brows now symmetrical, you switch to tweezers for finer detail. As metal pinches hair roots, you recall first pluck session's pain and chuckle, tonight is mercy by comparison. Quirky tidbit. Brother Guy once told you some regions tied human hair clippings to fruit trees under waxing moon to ensure abundant harvest. If hair grows, apples swell likewise. You imagine orchard of hair-tied branches swaying in moonlight, equal parts eerie and charming. You resolve not to donate your clippings, the linen square will suffice. Tweezers slip, catching skin. A brief sting, Nothing dramatic. You dab a droplet of lavender water. Aroma cools micro-trauma instantly. Candle sputters approval. Brows now sleek. You consider final touch. Light beeswax rub to keep hairs aligned. You melt wax bead on fingertip near flame. Then glide across arches. Sheen subtle, not shiny. Mirror shows refined symmetry. To honor lunar rite, you gather linen square of clippings. Fold twice and slide into diary pocket. Tomorrow's sun will decide fate. Perhaps compost for herb garden. Maybe spell ingredient for brother guy's curiosity. Scholarly debate phrase slides in. Historians still argue whether these lunar grooming rituals originated from Islamic astronomical texts filtered through monastic scribes or echoed far older pagan cycles rebranded under Christian calendars. Marginalia in abbey almanacs reveal heated glosses on authenticity. You blow out taper, letting moonlight alone silver the alcove. The hall beyond lies quiet, save occasional clank from night watch changing shifts. Brows feel lighter, yet spirit oddly buoyant, as though aligning with cosmic timetable tuned your own humours. You jot diary note by faint moon glow. Trimmed brows under gibbous moon. Pain low, symmetry high. Test superstition. Add wink. If harvest prospers, O orchard a hair ribbon. Sleep beckons but hunger murmurs. No heavy fare after moon rituals. You sip warm oat milk lightly spiced with nutmeg, savouring earthiness. Brother Guy passes corridor, sees trimmed brows, nods whispering. The moon approves. You raise mug, toast silent cosmos. Back in chamber, you remove veil, braid hair, and settle into bed. Window slit frames moon, now drifting behind feather clouds. You trace arches lightly, noticing mild lavender warmth. Blankets rustle, straw mattress sighs. No dawn repetition, just silver-cradled night easing muscles. You reflect from freckles lauded at market, to verdigris salve sting, to lunar brow taming. Your beauty journey balances science, superstition, and sheer experimentation, alchemy of vanity and survival. A final ocean gust moans, but shutters hold. You exhale, eyelids drooping. Somewhere, orchard branches await tomorrow's sun. Somewhere else, Baroness counts copper patches. You drift, lashes falling over freshly pruned brows, whispering thanks to gibbous guide. Candle cold, moon fading, breath slows, carrying lavender, beeswax and slight copper memory into dreams. Midweek heralds the arrival of the colour cart, that wandering wagon you hear long before you see. Thanks to its driver, jangling copper bells and chanting rhymes about miracle balms, Moorish kohl and veils that hide 10 winters. You step onto the courtyard cobbles, wool cloak swirling in crisp air, eager to sift fact from snake oil. The peddler, a wiry fellow with sandalwood-scented beard beads, bows dramatically, produces a lacquered chest, and invites curious souls to taste the Orient without leaving your moat. His customers form a semicircle. Baroness Melisende, quicklime blonde tucked under sable hat, Lady Isabel, green tinge fading nicely, and a dozen maids with purses poised for impulse. He flips open the chest, revealing tiers of tiny glass vials shimmering like dragonfly wings. Sunlight refracts through crimson oils, onyx powders, and iridescent dust, said to capture moonshine. Mainstream historical fact. Late medieval trade routes funneled cosmetics from Andalusian apothecaries and Levantine bazaars into northern Europe. Itinerant chapmen carried portable displays to courts hungry for novelty. These traders often held licenses from local guilds, though enforcement proved as flaky as beetroot rouge after a snowstorm. Your eyes snag on a roll of sheer silk veils dyed in gradient hues, saffron gold to deep mulberry. Peddler claims each tint complements a different complexion. Gold for brunettes, rose for pallid beauties, looking at you lavender for ladies sporting new freckles. He demonstrates by draping one veil across your shoulders. The mulberry edge hugs your face, deepening eye color. Baroness raises brow, clearly plotting. She selects saffron veil, hoping to match her quicklime hair. Light joke flicks across your tongue. A veil so bright even garlic won't dare compete. Giggles ripple through the semicircle. The peddler lifts a tiny amphora labeled Tears of Damascus, a viscous kohl blend of antimony and frankincense oil designed to darken lash lines, and he claims ward off desert glare. He applies a whisper to your lash tips with a reed stylus. Lids feel pleasantly cool, scent vaguely smoky. You flutter lashes. Court ladies gasp at instant definition. Historians still argue whether antimony kohl actually protected eyes from sun or simply served as ancient eyeliner. Medical scrolls cite mild antimicrobial benefits, while skeptics cite heavy metal hazards. You suspect both truths wink from opposite ends of stylus. Next comes a vial of mermaid's blood, a crimson oil swirling with crushed cochineal and a trace of myrrh. Peddler insists one drop on lips endures all day and tastes of distant sounds. You volunteer a dab, remembering breath pearl victories. The oil warms, staining lips berry red without heavy wax. Flavor faintly resinous, pleasant. Crowd murmurs approval. Baroness snatches her own vial before stock dwindles. Quirky tidbit arises when the peddler pulls a small ivory fan containing paper sachets of colored clay dust. He claims blowing dust through fan slats onto face sets makeup and summons courtly breezes. Demonstration leaves Lady Isabel coughing rose powder, but she recovers, cheeks now rosier, a bonus effect. Peddler winks, patent pending. He rolls out final marvel. Phoenix ash, a shimmering powder that allegedly sparks on skin when struck by sunlight. You recall your Armagleam highlighter. Curiosity piqued, you request a test. He dusts a knuckle. Sunlight hits and tiny mica flecks glint. No sparks, but a hypnotic twinkle that beats beeswax shine. You purchase a thimbleful, calculating it pairs nicely with lavender night brows. Transaction time. Baroness pays in silver for saffron veil and kohl. You trade 2 cinnamon breath pearls and a scrap of Armour's beeswax formula for mermaid oil, phoenix ash, and a spare lavender veil for Lady Isabel's post-copper phase. Peddler bows, pleased with exotic barter. After wagon rattles off, castle air thrums with experimentation. Maids flutter mulberry veils. Knights joke about borrowing phoenix ash for tournament pennants. You retreat to solar, spread new treasures like tarot cards. First phoenix ash sprinkled on wrist. Mica shimmer dances, subtle yet entrancing. Then mermaid oil drop on lips. Color deepens, aligning with mulberry veil. Mirror reveals less pious pallor, more storytelling heroine. You note mild tingling from kohl and antimony at work. You cleanse lower lash with lavender water to test stain longevity. Color barely fades, promising smudge-proof evenings. Diary page opens. Marketplace haul and antimony, kohl, cochineal oil, phoenix ash, monitor skin tomorrow. You also jot peddler chant for comedic posterity. Evening feast arrives. You debut mulberry veil draped low, allowing high brows and shimmered cheeks to peek. Candlelight bounces mica flecks, Sir Raymond's eyes track sparkle. He compliments stardust glow, asks if it's armor wax remix. You laugh, reveal secret teasing he can borrow for next joust. He agrees if you lend breath pearls again. Deal. During dessert, troubadour composes impromptu verse about lady veiled in twilight wine. Lashes tipped with night's ink. Court applauds. Baroness shifts uncomfortably, her heavy saffron veil casting sickly hue on quicklime hair. Lesson: not every tint suits every pallor. Later, you find Brother Guy in library studying Persian astronomical manuscript. He eyes your Colin freckles, remarks on integration of village and exotic trends. You gift him phoenix ash sample. He sprinkles under candle and marvels at glitter. Night deepens. You cleanse face with rose water, testing antimony persistence. Backsplash spinner, balm and mild soap remove most. Skin uninflamed so far. You massage shepherd salve onto hands, merging village with marketplace again. Before bed you fold mulberry veil into cedar chest, beside scented gloves, copper salve, and lunar chart. Treasure trove of contradictions. Diary addendum. Historians may debate efficacy, but confidence glints stronger than mica. You sign off with tiny phoenix ash star dab next to signature. Blankets pulled. Lavender scent lingers. Outside, peddler bells fade into night. You imagine him hawking miracle veils to next town. Sleep tiptoes in, carrying mix of frankincense, myrrh, calendula, and beeswax in its pockets. Lashes heavy. You dream of traveling wagon, moonlit orchards adorned with hair clippings and freckles shimmering like phoenix ash under starlight. You're lounging on a velvet cushion in the minstrel's gallery, parchment fan idle in one hand, when strings of a viol begin to hum below. The troubadours have arrived from Occitania, suntanned, sandal-footed poets whose verses spread faster than plague gossip, and their opening stanza praises skin pale as candle wax, lips red as crushed cherries, and eyes deeper than midnight glass. At once you feel every cosmetic experiment of the past fortnight rising like troops for review. Moon-high brow, phoenix ash shimmer, chamomile gold hair, freckles you've decided to keep. Tonight, though, the battlefield is imagination, because courtly love poetry can sculpt ideals more sharply than any tweezer. The poet's refrain lingers in vaulted air, and you watch the hall react. Maids pinch cheeks to summon blood. Baroness Melisende tilts veil to hide quicklime overtones. Now judged too brazen, Lady Isabel presses fingers to copper-patched jaw, praying for flawless silhouette. You, meanwhile, glide fingers along mulberry veil edge, weighing whether poetry's spotlight demands fresh touch of mermaid oil. Instead, you stay still, letting verses do the heavy lifting, storytelling ASMR that coats the ear like honey. Mainstream historical fact. From the late 12th century, troubadour and trouvère lyrics circulated through courts from Aquitaine to Lombardy, extolling refined beauty traits, ivory skin, slender waist, elongated neck, that soon infiltrated clothing cuts and grooming habits. Eleanor of Aquitaine's patronage helped codify these ideals across Europe, sparking a market for imported silks that draped swan throats and powders that muted sun-kissed hues, unacceptable in castle ballads. The song shifts to La Belle Dame. Rosy, yes, but also perfumed by civet and wreathed in jasmine. You inhale, catching your violet glove memory. Close enough. The minstrel then praises fingertips, soft as curds, and nails pink as sunrise. Light joke darts through your mind. Good luck achieving curd-soft digits when you're plucking hawk jesses at 6 a.m. Still, ideal sells. Already a squire whispers to barber about goat milk soaks for hands. The second poet recites a narrative of unrequited longing, swearing the lady's single dimple toppled armies. You glance at mirror sliver on pillar. No dimples, but freckles cluster like star map. Maybe that counts. Quirky tidbit. Some court ladies reportedly glued tiny velvet dimple patches onto cheeks when smiling to simulate coveted indentations. One chronicler mocks a duchess whose patch slid mid-banquet, lodging on her soup spoon. Between verses, you note jewelry table where goldsmith showcases elongated heart-shaped brooches called amour tokens. Legend says, wearing one near collarbone draws gaze along neck, emphasizing elegant lines. Poets adore. You test sample brooch. It rests above clavicle like miniature lute. Reflection shows neck lengthened by optical illusion. Veil shape echoing heart curve. Back to performance. Lyric now attaches moral weight. Beauty mirrors virtue. Blemish signals fickle heart. Historians still argue whether troubadour poetry genuinely reshaped social conduct or merely described pre-existing aristocratic tastes. Some find records of sudden surges in almond paste skin creams and lace collars right after popular ballads toured, while others see beauty manuals lagging decades behind lyrical fashion. Regardless, you witness power in real time. Maids scuttle off to fetch jasmine oil. Baroness discreetly attempts to tuck one rebellious quicklime strand under veil. After final chord fades, applause erupts. Courtiers line to tip poets with coins and promises of lodging. You slip down staircase to courtyard fountain, seeking moon reflection for quick beauty audit. Silver water reveals satisfied blend of old and new, brows arched like minstrel's quill, freckles soft under phoenix halo, lips berry bright but not theatrical. A breeze delivers faint jasmine from herb plot, a sign you possess poet-approved fragrance without civet's wallet-draining stink. Sir Raymond appears, parchment scrap in hand. He snagged lyrics from scribe copying poems. He reads aloud verse, praising hands bearing faint ink stains. From letters to beloved, you flash palms, a smudge of diary ink indeed remains. He smiles, authentic romance fingerprint. You laugh, offering him birch bark ribbon as counter token. He threads it through his sleeve, a nod to folk wisdom meeting chivalric flair. Later, in Solar, You and Lady Isabel dissect poem lines while testing phoenix ash under candle to mimic starlit skin. She discloses that troubadours in Poitiers praise freckles as gold dust fallen on moon. Your village validation travels well, it seems. You sprinkle ash lightly over nose constellation, each fleck catching lamplight celestial dust meets earthly star map. Night deepens. Hallways echo footfalls of poets seeking straw palettes. You undress, pinning heart-shaped brooch to gown stand for tomorrow. Mirror's final glance shows no need for copper patch or lead mask. Poetry's lens softened harsh details, turning quirks to features. You cleanse kohl with lavender water, leaving faint smoke outline. Ghost of verse. Diary time. Troubadour poems sway beauty ideals. Remember velvet dimple patch anecdote. Mix freckle pride with neck elongating veils. You sketch heart brooch design. Scribble recipe for goat milk hand soak. Steep with rosemary. Chant 2 couplets. Before extinguishing taper, you recite poet's closing couplet. Voice low, cadence gentle. Words float into chamber, settle like down feathers. Blanket tucks around shoulders. Moonbeam crosses floor, painting elongated neck silhouette on wall. You smile, letting line between reality and verse blur into lullaby. Breath slows, distant lute echoes in memory, promising that tomorrow's masked ball will be battleground of veils, jasmine, and freshly composed lines. You drift toward dreams, where poets chase freckles across parchment and beauty standards bend like willow branches, graceful, resilient, ever swaying to new songs. The morning of the mask dawns crisp and bright, and as you stand before your slightly less warped pewter mirror, you can't help wondering how many of last night's troubadour ideals still echo, faint but persistent, in the grooming habits that will greet some distant future. You tilt mulberry veil aside and survey the sum of your medieval experimentation. Moon-high brows, chamomile bright hair, phoenix ash shimmer, freckles worn without apology, and a beeswax glow borrowed from the tilt yard. Oddly, it all feels familiar, not because you've worn it for weeks, but because you can already sense these same quirks resurfacing centuries ahead, renamed, repackaged, and uploaded into parlors and pharmacies you can't yet imagine. You begin a gentle routine that would look oddly modern to that future world. First, you cleanse with lavender water. Call it micellar if you must, sweeping away antimony kohl residue until cotton scrap lifts nearly clean. Next, the shepherd's calendula salve warms between palms and melts into cheeks like a dewy primer. The once exotic saffron tones in your hair are refreshed with a single rinse of chamomile infusion, a DIY toner long before chemists bottle blonding drops.
Brows.
A quick swipe of beeswax tame stick holds arches in place better than any spoolie brush could hope. Even last night's phoenix ash, dusted sparingly along cheekbones, functions exactly like a limited edition highlighter. Future influencers will promote as starlight in a jar. Mainstream historical fact slides into the mirror's reflection. Cosmetic historians argue that cold cream, widely credited to 2nd century Galen, never truly vanished. It simply shapeshifted through Middle Ages into goat milk balms, monastery soap, and shepherd's lanolin. You smear a dab on lip corners to soften mermaid oil tint, recognizing cold cream's ghost. With every step you feel a time bridge underfoot. The copper patch that calmed Lady Isabel's blemish. Its verdigris base may one day morph into green-tone concealer sticks designed to neutralize redness. The lunar brow chart tacked above your desk. Modern dermatologists will scoff at gibbous plucking, yet they'll still concede hair cycles matter, just framed by anagon and telogen instead of waxing and waning. Even that dubious quicklime bleach will resurrect as peroxide, freed from lime's burns but chasing the same pale fantasy. You slip on scented gloves for tonight's dance, though you've swapped heavy violet clove for a faint lavender spritz, mindful of monastic moderation. As leather warms against skin, you picture a far-off future where perfumed sanitizers quietly echo this ritual. Fragrance plus hygiene, handshake diplomacy in vanilla or citrus. Down the corridor you hear maids gossiping about a new fad. Egg white masks, said to tighten pores before the mask. You've tried it, it works, and you know some distant chemist will whisk albumin into facelift serums, patent pending. Steps later, you pass the armory, where night's buff steel, the familiar honey-warm beeswax scent wafts out, reminding you that highlighters, lip balms, and leather polishes all share one hive. Legacy is simply reuse. At the Great Hall's entry, Baroness Melisenda appears in yet another quicklime revision, this time toned with rosemary rinse for softer straw gold. She eyes your freckles glinting beneath phoenix dust and whispers, half jealous, half awed, "Those star marks catch every torch." You smile. Think of modern freckle pens marketed to city dwellers craving sun-kissed authenticity, and thank St. Brigid's kisses for free. Sir Raymond greets you, brandishing birch ribbon sleeve and subtle lanolin sheen on gauntlets. Even he has joined the cross-pollination, field practicality blended with court polish. He offers an arm you accept, fingertips brushing armor wax still soft at his wrist. Together you enter the masque, a living collage of medieval hacks and nascent trends. Dancers swirl beneath banners painted in verdigris and phoenix ash. Troubadours pluck refrains that praise bright eyes, rimmed with kohl, rose-petal lips and hair gold by grace of herb. You catch shards of conversation, monks debating lavender stocks, maids bartering breath pearls for birch bark, pages flaunting cloth patches that simulate dimples. The hall itself becomes a time capsule showroom, each guest a prototype for rituals that will reverberate beyond tapestried walls. Later, as candles gutter and revelers drift toward straw pallets, you slip away to scriptorium. Under moonlit slit window, you unroll diary and write final reflections. Beauty flows like melody, every note revisited, rearranged, never lost. You glue a fleck of phoenix ash to page, press a strand of chamomile hair, add smear of mermaid oil. Your tiny scrapbook now mirrors a 21st century influencer's flat lay, minus the ring light. Historians still argue whether medieval beauty standards truly fade or just cycle, but your mirror tells the tale. Pale skin versus sun-kissed, herbal tresses versus chemical bleaches, copper salve versus concealer mint, iterative echoes in an endless reel. You sign entry, blow out candle, and gather cloak. In bed, you feel beeswax balm lingering, phoenix dust still winking. As your eyes flutter shut, you imagine future sleepers streaming boring history for sleep, hearing your story and rifling vanity drawers where chamomile shampoo sits beside copper-toned color corrector. Medieval myths reborn in plastic pumps. You smile, letting timeline coil around dreams like soft lavender smoke. Now ease back from torchlit halls and let the echoes of lute strings drift into hush. Feel the weight of your blankets settle the way a velvet cloak would in candle-scented chambers, soft and grounding. Each breath you draw is lighter, cleansed of frankincense and copper tang, filled instead with gentle lavender carried on a calm night breeze. Picture the moon outside, steady, watchful, its silvery glow smoothing every freckle on your imagined cheek. With each slow inhale, gather the warmth of beeswax balm, the faint sweetness of chamomile, the whisper of phoenix dust. Let those fragrances blend, then melt away until only quiet remains. Exhale long and low, as though blowing out the final taper in a silent solar. Your mind might still wander through echoing corridors, armor gleaming, troubadours singing, traders rattling their wares, but notice how the images soften, colors fading to warm sepia. Footsteps grow muffled by rushes, voices sink to a lull. Even the parchment moon chart curls closed, satisfied with tonight's perfect symmetry. Allow your muscles to unlace just as tightly bound corsets were loosened after feasts, shoulders dropping, jaw unclenching. Feel a cool cloth lay across your forehead, as light as a mulberry veil, bringing ease to every thought. The gentle weight invites eyelids to rest heavier, fluttering like evening swallows settling on eaves. Somewhere distant, a single bell marks the night watch, its tone low and reassuring. With each chime drift another step deeper into stillness, trusting that every beauty ritual, every freckle, every quiet smile has earned its rest. Breathe once more, slow, steady. Let the hush close around you like velvet drapes. Sleep now, calm and untroubled, as the moon keeps watch and the centuries gently exhale.